When you think of the apocalypse, it's very likely that you think of destruction, despair, chaos, and through it all, the ultimate finality, the end of all life. It's a strange experience trying to imagine a world in which you no longer exist, and yet thinking about humanity's demise and what follows it opens up the possibility for introspection and quite often reveals deep truths. Attempting to understand the ununderstandable is captivating, and by thinking about why and how life as we know it may come to an end, we can explore what it means to be a human, and if, given the choice, humanity is something that should live on, despite its flaws. Neon Genesis Evangelion is an anime series about gigantic robots that fight monsters. Except for when it isn't. And its depiction of the end of humanity, with its uniquely stunning animation, along with the profound, introspective and almost poetic nature of how it comes about, makes it, at least in my opinion, the most beautiful apocalypse. Evangelion, in a lot of ways, is left open to interpretation, and a lot of the plot and meaning is very hotly debated, so the chances are I'm going to say some things in this video that you disagree with. So tell me what you think in the comments below, and let's talk about it. If you do enjoy the video, drop me a like and subscribe, as it does help me out quite a lot. Through Neon Genesis Evangelion and the End of Evangelion, we follow Shinji, Rei, and Asuka, three teenagers who are forced to pilot giant robots called Evangelions and fight against powerful monsters called Angels to stop them from triggering the third impact, which is basically the end of the world. They do this under the watch of NERV, a government agency tasked with the protection of humanity. As the series goes on, we begin to realise that the robot battles and the giant monsters are actually just the backdrop for a story about the deep trauma and anguish that these characters hold, and how these intricately realised people deal with and are affected by such an unreal situation. Shinji, Rei, and Asuka all hold their own trauma and experience its effects differently. Shinji's mother passed away while he was still young, and his emotionally abusive father, Gendo, who is also the leader of NERV, now holds obvious outward contempt towards him. He is withdrawn, scared of confrontation, and only takes action when he thinks it's what somebody else wants him to do. Asuka, while outwardly confident and happy, carries deep emotional baggage from her past. When she was a young child, her mother took her own life, and her father showed very little affection towards her. He was very obviously having an affair in the time just before her mother's suicide, and his mistress became Asuka's stepmother shortly after this tragic event. There was no love and no approval in her childhood, so now as a teenager she places all of her self-worth in being the best at what she does, no matter what the cost. In doing so, she hopes that she can feel the love and approval from others that she never received from her parents. She puts up walls and outwardly projects her insecurities in the facade of self-confidence, an act that she is so scared to break that at times she would rather die than be second best. Rei has no mother or father. She's lived and died at least once before the start of the series, and multiple times by the end, and is basically the property of NERV. She is a clone of Gendo Ikari's dead wife, Shinji's mother, and her body is the vessel for the soul of a god. She had no childhood, and has almost no understanding of her own existence. Because of this, she relies on others to give her life meaning. Piloting the Evas is her link to humanity and her reason to live. Her life is lonely, void of companionship, and although throughout the series she begins to question this and desire intimacy with others, she is ultimately unable to communicate these desires. As NGE goes on, we learn that Shinji, Rei, and Asuka are not alone in carrying trauma with them. In fact, every character in the entire series carries some kind of emotional baggage. And this attention to both past and present actions, as well as how each person is affected by them, results in Evangelion having some of the most memorable and well-written characters in all of anime and maybe all of fiction. There is no one in the world of Evangelion who is free of hurt and pain, and while the pain of each character comes from a different place, we see that their suffering manifests in an issue that they all share: the Hedgehog's Dilemma. The Hedgehog's Dilemma is a metaphor first published by Arthur Schopenhauer about the challenges of human intimacy. The actual metaphor uses porcupines, not hedgehogs, but the principle's the same. It describes a situation in which a group of hedgehogs try to be close to each other in order to share their body heat during the cold months of the winter. However, because of their sharp spines, the closer they get, the more they hurt one another. And so, although they all want to be near each other, they avoid this for fear of being hurt.
Even though a hedgehog may want to become close with another hedgehog, the closer they get, the more they injure each other with their spines.
This dilemma is present through the entire series, affecting both the heroes and the villains deeply. Rejection, embarrassment, physical abuse, betrayal, emotional torment, all come as a risk of getting close and opening up to others. And the human inability to reconcile the need for intimacy with the fear of pain leads to the absolute insanity that is the Human Instrumentality Project. Throughout the series, we see glimpses of a shadowy organisation called Zeller, who pull the strings and provide funding to NERV. It becomes clear fairly quickly that their ultimate goal is more than just the defeat of the Angels. We learned that they are actually using NERV and Gendo, and that once the Angels are defeated, they will execute a secret plan of their own. What they're planning is human instrumentality. As it happens, Gendo has his own plan to initiate human instrumentality, and alongside his second-in-command, Fuyutsuki, he's working to create the conditions necessary to trigger human instrumentality under his control. Gendo learns about Zeller's plan through the use of a double agent, who then turns triple agent, Ryoji Kaji. And so, Gendo and Zeller work simultaneously, but not cooperatively, to complete the Human Instrumentality Project. So what exactly is the Human Instrumentality Project? Human instrumentality is the solution to the Hedgehog's Dilemma. If people need to be close to others but can't because they fear that pain may come from it, then why not remove the possibility of pain? Why not let go of the suffering and become one in body and soul with all others? Remove the boundaries on which the metaphorical hedgehog spikes lie, and allow the warmth of all humanity to be shared with no way of causing pain to ourselves or others. When human instrumentality is triggered, all of humanity will cease to exist as individuals. Our bodies break down into a literal ocean of primordial soup, in which all of our souls melt together. Every thought and feeling of every human on Earth is known to every other human on Earth all at once. And at the same time, humanity experiences intimacy in a way that cannot be achieved in a physical body. Everybody understands everybody else. Everybody is everybody else. As nice as that might sound to some people, the majority of humanity do not get the choice whether or not this will happen to them. Human instrumentality is brought about by the actions of a few, and in the end, the final choice to accept or reject it on behalf of the entire species is given to a single person. The actual process of initiating human instrumentality is complex, and relies on a lot of lore that is only briefly mentioned within the show. The majority of people on their first watch through the series and the End of Evangelion will reach the ending and ask themselves, what the hell was that? I'll try to explain in real terms how human instrumentality actually happens in Evangelion and what leads up to it. This gets really strange, so stay with me, but basically, millions of years ago, a super ancient, super advanced race of aliens sent eggs of life out into the universe with the hope of seeding them on dormant planets and creating new life. Each planet was supposed to only get one egg, but Earth got two. One egg contained Adam, the other contained Lilith. Lilith gave life to humanity and allowed them to spread across the Earth. Adam lay dormant until the year 2000, when the Katsuragi expedition, backed by Sella, found him buried in Antarctica. When they found him, they decided to merge human DNA with him. This triggered the second impact, and woke Adam from his dormancy. The scientists were able to subdue Adam and revert him back into a dormant embryonic form, but not before a cataclysmic explosion took place which melted the ice caps, shifted the Earth's axis, and wiped out half of all life on Earth. This event also triggered the awakening of the angels, which began to appear 15 years later as they tried to make contact with Lilith, who is now lying dormant underneath Nerve HQ in Japan. If an angel were to reach Lilith, a third impact would occur, wiping out all remaining life on Earth, and allowing angels to create their own offspring and become the dominant life form on Earth. After the second impact, but before the appearance of angels, Gendo and the rest of Nerve begin development of the Evangelion units. These are gigantic human-piloted robots capable of fighting off the angels. These Evas were made from living beings genetically derived from Adam. During the development of Eva Unit 01, Shinji's mother and Gendo's wife, Yui, is absorbed into the unit, destroying her physical body and, in all physical sense, killing her. Using a combination of Yui's and Lilith's DNA, Gendo creates a clone that will become Rei Ayanami. She will be the vessel for Lilith's soul. Once the Evangelion units are built, children are selected to pilot them. These children must fit specific criteria, including having no mother and being able to achieve a very high sync rate with the Eva they pilot. In the year 2015, using the Evas, the angels are fought and destroyed. This is a prerequisite for the Human Instrumentality Project, as the destruction of the angels paves the way for humanity to become the dominant life form on Earth. During this time, Gendo acquires the dormant embryonic form of Adam and fuses it into his hand. The final angel, which took the form of a child named Kaworu and befriended Shinji, is destroyed by Shinji himself, who believed himself to be murdering a dear friend. This act sent him into a downward spiral of negative emotion. Now that all of the angels are gone, the time has come. Both Sella and Gendo prepare to initiate human instrumentality. Firstly, contact must be made between Adam and Lilith. This will trigger a third impact, similar to the second impact 15 years ago, where human DNA was merged with Adam. The idea here is that the third impact will reawaken Lilith, reveal the Black Moon, and open the Chamber of Guff, which allows the souls of humanity to be released from their physical bodies. Human instrumentality can now take place, melting down all life on Earth into an ocean of orange goo in which all of our hearts, minds, and souls mingle together and live forever. Now, Sella and Gendo both want to achieve human instrumentality, but they each want it to happen in their own way. Cella wants to use mass-produced Evangelion units and the Spear of Longinus to activate the third impact themselves, while Gendo wishes to merge himself with Lilith via Rei and take control of human instrumentality so that he can be reunited with his lost wife Yui. They can't both have their way, so during the End of Evangelion, Cella mercenaries storm NERV HQ in an attempt to kill all inside and prevent Gendo from enacting his version of instrumentality. The mass production EVA units are also sent to destroy the NERV-built Evangelions and assist with Cella's version of instrumentality. This all culminates in a brutal massacre of the staff inside NERV HQ, and one of the most visually stunning action set pieces I have ever seen animated. Cella begins their attempt to kick off the third impact as they force EVA Unit 1, piloted by Shinji, into the sky alongside their mass-produced EVAs. Shinji, having seen Asuka's destroyed Evangelion, is in a state of total shock and anguish. Meanwhile, Gendo, now with Rei in Lilith's chamber under NERV, attempts to trigger the third impact himself. Rei's AT field is weakening, and so he is able to take Adam, still fused to his hand, and merge it together with the DNA of Lilith inside Rei. Rei, however, decides at this moment that she does not want Gendo to decide the fate of humanity, and in an act of defiance, cuts his arm off. This removes Gendo's link to Adam and takes away his ability to control human instrumentality. By doing this, Rei triggers the third impact and reawakens Lilith. She then merges herself with Lilith and takes the form of a god. Rising out of the earth as a gigantic ethereal being, Rei/Lilith begin human instrumentality. And through what I consider to be the most visually impressive and absolutely beautiful set piece in all of anime, we bear witness as all of humanity loses its physical form and merges together as one giant orange ocean of primordial soup. All minds are now one, and there is no more pain, secrets, or betrayal. But there is also no happiness, sadness, or emotion of any kind. There is only peace. Rei/Lilith appears to Shinji within the primordial soup and allows him to determine the final outcome. He is given the choice to accept instrumentality, allowing all souls to live on merged together, or to reject it, allowing humanity to regain their individual identities. After experiencing life as one shared being with the rest of his species, Shinji comes to realize that without sadness there is no happiness, without pain there can be no pleasure, and without boundaries there can be no intimacy. He decides that even though people can hurt one another while separate, the risk of pain is worth the happiness that intimacy and friendship between individuals can bring. Shinji rejects instrumentality. As he does this, the physical god form of Lilith falls apart, its head crashing into the earth, and humanity is once again allowed to live as individuals. In the final scene of the End of Evangelion, we see Shinji and Asuka lying on a beach. They are the only humans who are now living with individual identities. Shinji looks at Asuka and, without saying a word, climbs on top of her and begins to choke her. Instead of fighting back, Asuka lifts her hand and touches Shinji's face, showing him the physical intimacy for which he rejected instrumentality. Shinji lets up and begins to cry, while Asuka speaks the final word of Evangelion.
How disgusting.
Okay, so now you're probably thinking, what the hell was that? People who have seen NGE and the End of Evangelion will know that I left out a huge amount of detail in that recap. I didn't really go into the events of the final 2 episodes of the series, as they mostly focus on the inner thoughts and feelings of the characters rather than the overall experience of human instrumentality. There really is so much depth to Evangelion that diving deep into every character and event in the show would make this video hours long, so I'll stick to the point of this video. Why is the Human Instrumentality Project the most beautiful depiction of the apocalypse? To me, human instrumentality is profoundly unique. The apocalypse in media is often used to represent a new beginning for the world, forged through chaotic destruction and suffering, whether that be man-made or natural. And while human instrumentality shares these features with most other apocalyptic scenarios, what we see in the End of Evangelion offers a unique and poetic version of the end. A transformation not just in a metaphorical sense, but a true physical new world envisioned like nothing else I've ever seen. The beauty of instrumentality lies in its cyclical nature. Although it's an end to life as we know it, life itself doesn't actually end. It continues in another form. The merging of souls doesn't just mean the end to individuality. It's the creation of something new, something potentially better. And all those who lost their physical bodies, screaming in terror, will immediately understand the hows and whys of their new situation and live on in the purest form of peace. And although the majority of humanity didn't ask for or want this, their new state can be seen as a gift. By erasing the walls between individuals that often lead to pain, the human experience is transformed into something beyond the physical and beyond the emotional. A pure state of existence. Emotionally, human instrumentality taps into the deepest human desires for love, understanding, and connection with others. At the same time, it confronts us with our fear of loneliness, loss, and isolation. The fact that our desire to overcome these fears and achieve our wishes for companionship are so strong that multiple people are willing to end life as we know it to get us there gives the end result a tragic and deeply resonant beauty. As we know that while yes, the pain is gone and the companionship is now infinite, there is no longer any point to those things. After all, without pain to compare it to, how do we know if we're feeling pleasure? Without loneliness, how can we understand companionship? In the end, I believe that the Human Instrumentality Project failed. Yes, humanity got turned into an ocean of orange goo just as Sella and Gendo planned, but Shinji, coming to the same realization that we as the audience do, understands that the human experience can't exist without boundaries. And even though you will experience hurt and pain within your life as an individual, it's those experiences that allow the feeling of happiness, love, pleasure, and makes life worth living. And so, with Shinji's rejection of instrumentality, all of humanity can choose to live again as individuals and live the true human experience. This is deeply inspiring to me. To remind myself that bad things will happen, but without them there can be no good, is something that helps me appreciate and value the good things in my life. And the fact that the chaos, terror, and insanity of the Human Instrumentality Project can instill such a simple and yet profoundly inspirational message is why I believe the Human Instrumentality Project is the most beautiful apocalypse. If you made it to the end, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I hope that you'll let me know your thoughts in the comments. It's my first video after a long break from YouTube, and I want to keep improving at my craft, so if you're not already, please subscribe, and have a great day.